Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share this out if you have a platform that you can do so. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I see some of you guys are here. Hi, Rebecca, Touched by Yarn. Oh my goodness, long time no see. How are you? Joe Fix It For You. I saw that you were here earlier. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to send a comment this way. All right, we're going to get started. Thanks for coming in. And again, as always, please, 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 if you have the ability or the capability or a platform that you're able to share this on, certainly would appreciate it. Tonight, you guys are in for a great treat. I'm so excited. Okay, so I have to tell you guys, it's definitely not my forte to be interviewed. I will, and I am honored to do that. So I have to explain a little bit. But being interviewed, woof, that's tricky. It's a little tough for me. And I had the honor. Hi, Christy Betts. Welcome in. Had the honor to be on my guest's podcast, and I'm going to have him share all about it so you guys can connect and watch his incredible episodes. But I was a guest on his podcast, and you'll see, he has such a great spirit about him, a great demeanor. If you're into auras, he's got a great aura and a great story. So I am going to bring him in, and as always, if you have questions, I see more people have joined. Please don't forget to comment, say hello so I can say hi to you. But if you have any questions for my guest, then please post them in the comments and I will keep an eye on them and do my very, very best to not miss any if possible. Okay, so here we go. There he is. Everybody welcome Daryl. He is so amazing. This is Daryl Snow. And I have to, before I tell him to introduce himself and tell us all the things, I have to tell you a little bit about Daryl. Daryl is a podcaster. He is also a life coach, and he has poured into my life more than I think he knows. And that's the reason why I wanted you to come on, Daryl, is because you have a way about you that, and I know that you say it's the Lord, the Holy Spirit that speaks through you. And I would have to agree with that because there have been times that I will be going through something, a season, a moment, a day, a week. And all I have to do is send a little message to you, Daryl, or when we have our Wednesday meetings with Prosperity TV Network, we can just be typing in the chat and you'll say, hey, how are you doing? You okay? And then I'll say, I'm all right. And then you say a few more words and then I'm like, okay, I can do this. You have that way about you. And that was why I am more reasons than that. But one of the main reasons to have you on is because I know that you will be able to reach others by sharing your story and sharing your testimony. And maybe others will want to reach out to you as well and chat with you. So welcome in.
You have it taping vertically apparently because they said half my face is cut off, so I'll scoot over. Also says half my face is cut off, so I'll just move so that it centers it.
Okay. Let me look. I just want to see it. So show the preview of your vertical.
Yeah, I just moved over.
Okay.
It's okay. We're good.
You're good. Okay.
First off, thank you for. We're good.
Okay.
I moved. Yeah. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm honored and blessed to be here. Your show is no judgment here, but that sure is a lot of pressure with that buildup. And your episode on my podcast will air on December 3rd. So I hope all of your family and friends tune in to hear your amazing story as well. So just thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. Hi, Elsa. How's it now? So, Daryl, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do. Are you married? Do you have children?
I am married. I have been blessed to have my lovely wife for the last 11 years in my life, and we just celebrated our 11-year anniversary. I am a keynote speaker, I'm a podcaster, and I'm a transformational life coach, personal consultant more because I do business coaching as well as personal coaching. But I was in real estate for 8 years. I've had a myriad of jobs as I was trying to find my way in life before I fully healed myself. So
Mm.
I joke with my wife because she worked 30 years for one company, and in that time frame, I probably had 30 different jobs. So I I was trying to find who I am, and I would literally every 2 years throw a dart at the map and move
Mm.
because I thought I was more of a nomad and an explorer. And then as I become healed, I realized I was more of a runner looking for myself. So kind of a difference.
Wow. See what I say, people. So that is very interesting to me and for many reasons. But one, Daryl, is because we are very similar in that. And I have a friend who just a couple of weeks ago, she had said, "Man, I'm ready to retire." She spent 32 years at the same job. And like you, I was like, wow, that is mind blowing to me because I too was trying to figure out what do I really want to do? What do I want to do? Who am I? Right? Who find out who we are and who am I and what do I want to do? And honestly, even though I have healed from trauma, I still sometimes wonder, am I where I'm supposed to be? Or and just try to sit still, which is really tricky for me, but to be still and listen to God. So you mentioned that you are married and do you have children?
I'm blessed to have a daughter and a son, both from my son is from my wife's first marriage, and my daughter is she. I came into her life when she was 2 years old in my
Mm.
first marriage, so she's been my daughter ever since. As a matter of fact, when she was 9, I wanted to adopt her, and her biological dad said no. So I said "F you" and just did a legal name change, and she's been mine ever since. So
I love it.
yeah,
That is awesome. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. So let me ask you this. And like I shared with my guest during the opening, that with this month being November, and for me being a month where my podcasts are focused on being thankful and grateful for how good God is. Like I shared, we have to go through most of the time, maybe not all the time, but most of the time, we will go through some of the tough stuff in order to maybe sometimes draw closer to God, maybe find out who God is, maybe trust in God for the first time in our lives, maybe surrender to Him fully and completely. But and you had mentioned as you were speaking just a few minutes ago that as you have finally healed, you are where you are supposed to be. So share a little bit, if you will, some of the struggle that you have endured during your life. I guess let me take it back just a second before you answer that question. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What kind of childhood did you have? What kind of kiddo were you? And what kind of family did you have?
Yeah, we put the dis in dysfunctional for sure.
Mm.
You
Gotcha.
I grew up, the first 9 years of my life, in Minneapolis, and then my mom, married my stepdad, and we moved to a little town in Iowa, and my my mother was the type of mother that anything within reach was a weapon. I've been hit with spoons. I've been hit with a bullwhip. I've been hit with whatever, hairbrush, whatever. So she was a very volatile woman, and so I grew up in a very tumultuous household. And then when we moved to Iowa, my father was the calming presence. Yet, her physical and verbal abuse still happened. But I'm 60 years old, and I've only been healed fully for 2 years.
Mm,
And I realize that I've lived 60 years, but I've only actually lived two. The
mm,
first 58, I can't even, I mean, I've lived all over this country. Like I said, I used to throw a dart at a map and go, and I can tell you where I've lived, but I can't tell you anything about where I've lived because I
mhm,
wasn't fully alive. And I was an AB student, I was an Eagle Scout, I was, the guy who helped everybody. And I come to realize recently that I was part of my perfectionism, and the reason I'm so detail oriented and precise right now stems from having subconsciously thinking if I could only be perfect, then I wouldn't get hit.
mm.
And you know, I I literally just had that realization less than a week ago as I was talking with my wife. Like my perfectionism comes from trying to just be perfect. And so that's the kind of life I grew up in. My mom just passed away a year ago, and she was very surface level. She would never go deep. I knew she was sorry for what she did. And I was able through my own healing process to forgive her for what she did, but she would never speak about what she did. So we were never able to fully have a relationship. Um, the only time I ever remember being hugged by her was when we were saying goodbye. The only time I remember her saying "I love you" was later in life when she had her remorse, but she
Mm.
wouldn't ever express what she was remorseful for. I just knew that she didn't want to face her demons, and it was never to be talked about. So that's the life I grew up in.
Wow, did we have the same dad? Because honestly, and I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not kidding. But first of all, congratulations on your anniversary to you and your beautiful wife. And the other is, so I too I am a recovering perfectionist. And I say recovering because I tend to fall back into it. I still have those tendencies. And the reason why is because of the way that I was raised by a perfectionist as well as a an alcoholic abuser. And if things weren't perfect or done his way perfect, then I would be beaten. And so I did everything I could to make sure that I did everything exactly how he said it so that I wouldn't get hit. Same. And what was the revelation? You said you and your wife, and wow, congratulations, because that's huge. That is huge to become self-aware. And what was do you remember what the conversation was between you and your wife that made you finally realize that, Daryl?
First off, I have to say that my dad is the only hero I've ever had. If it wasn't for him and his unconditional love, I'm not sure that I would ever have made it through what I made it through.
Mm,
And secondly, my wife and I have very deep intellectual conversations. So to try to pinpoint when that
mm,
occurred or what that happened probably is very difficult for
sure.
me. But I just know that talk therapy never worked for me. I did talk therapy, and talk therapy became a crutch where I would say, "Oh, I dealt with that because I went to therapy," or I I'm healed now because I went to therapy. And it wasn't until I went to actual trauma coaches who really forced me inward that I could fully heal.
Mm,
And so And I have a background in psychology, so I love how the brain works, and that's where I love, you know, just talking deep stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but to pinpoint how that awakening happened or the realization, it was probably something very minute that made me go, "Oh, there's a connection," and then I just kinda ran with it, so
Thank God for that,
thank God
because
for a
that is
lot.
huge. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, as a child, and I know that you said you guys were dysfunctional, but did you know who the Lord was? Did you have a relationship with the Lord or introduced to Him? Did you go to church?
Well, church was kinda part of the trauma. My mom and my grandfather were strict, devout Catholics, and Catholicism rules by fear, in my humble opinion. Catholicism is not, in my humble opinion, a true way to connect to God in any fashion.
Mhm.
Sitting in a pew doing calisthenics, listening to someone read from a pamphlet and telling me all the reasons I'm going to go to hell does not exactly bring me closer to God.
Right.
Conversely, when my mom married my dad, their family was evangelical. So we had Saturday mass and Sunday church. And so I knew what God was supposed to be. I knew what the connection was supposed to be. But my actual connection to God for myself, and I say this all the time, I find more connection to God sitting on a mountain or at a beach than I do sitting in anybody's pew. But my true acceptance of God for myself, I was 11 years old. My mom took us to a movie, a Christian movie. We didn't know it was a Christian movie at the time. And this was a day and age where you could drop an 11-year-old off at a theater and they'd be okay.
Mhm.
So I went in and I watched the movie, and it was really powerful and really good. And then at the end of it, Billy Graham came out from behind the curtain and did his altar call. And that's the moment that I truly accepted Christ for myself. So that's when I made my own decision.
Wow. Do you remember what the movie was?
I don't. I really wish I could, but I don't. I just remember Billy Graham.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Were you by yourself when
Yep.
you
Well, me in a theater full of people, but yeah.
Sure. I mean, no family members. I mean,
No,
wow, that is. So, did you go home and tell your mom, and I ask this
no.
with care because, again, you and I was also introduced to Catholicism, and these are our opinions. We're not doctors. We're not critics. These are
Nope.
our own personal
My humble opinion.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no, I that wasn't something that I could go home and express to 11 years old already getting constantly beat. I'm not about to go tell my grandfather and my mother that they're suddenly full of crap. No. No, not gonna happen.
Wow. Okay. And so, did you go to, obviously, you went to school and graduate from high school? Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to, I mean, I was an AB student, like I said,
Mhm.
graduated with, honors. Did tried to go to community college after, college, but I was offered a job that was gonna pay me a lot of money, and so I dropped out of college to go do that. I was really good at sales. I was really good at talking to people and, knowing what they needed or what they wanted, and so sales came easy to me, and so I dropped out of, um, college to go do sales, and actually that moment was one of the biggest gifts that my father ever gave me because I growing up in a small town, our town was only like 7,000 people,
Mm.
and so I was gonna have to move to a very large city, and I was kind of afraid. He was a blue collar worker who worked hard all his life, and I knew how hard he worked to support 5 kids and a family, and I was gonna earn double what he ever made in his life, and
Mm.
so I was a little hesitant to move to a big city, and I was a lot hesitant to, I mean, I saw my father work so hard, and here I was gonna just income-wise blow it away, and he sat me down and he said, "Never he goes, first off, I expect you to always make more than I did. And if you don't, I'm going to kick your ass. Secondly, he said, home will always be here. So never be afraid to go make your mark in the world and find your place. And we're only a phone call away. And if you ever really need, we're only a plane ticket back.
Hmm.
From that moment, I had no fear to just pick up and go at any given moment.
How blessed you are, and you were as a child or a young teenager, child, young adult, because that's what every child, I believe, and I'm sure that you have shared the same with your children. I've shared that with mine. Anytime, I mean, we are here. Home is just a phone call away, a text away. I can come and get you. You can drive here. And to know that as you are getting ready to go and look for that mark that you want to make in the world is, I'm sure, so comforting and gave you so much confidence, almost support, that you're able to, I'm going to go and try this. I'm going to go and do it because I know if something happens, I can call home.
Absolutely agree with everything you said. But for me, it was almost a blessing and a curse because there was a point in my life where I was homeless, living out of my car and selling blood for gas money. And the reason I did not call home is because I did not want my father to be disappointed that I couldn't make it or didn't make it. And so I did everything I could. I talked to strangers to talk them into letting me spend a night on their couch so that I could get dressed to go look for work. I sold, the plasma for the gas money so that I could afford to drive to go to work. And never once did they know that until later in life that I had done all that.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to, because there's a lot there. So once your dad gave you his blessings and his support, where did you move to?
Uh, at that time, I moved. Well, I went to a little town called Liberal, Kansas, because I turned down the job that would have taken me to Florida. I just I couldn't pull the trigger. But I went to a little town in Kansas, and I met a lady, fell in love with her. We were going to move to a town in Texas, Abilene, Texas, and I moved. She had two little boys, and I moved to Abilene to set up our new house, our new apartment, whatever. And 2 weeks later, I got a phone call that she was in a car accident, and um, she was in a coma. She Her parents didn't like the fact that I was taking her out of their little town, so they didn't like me. So they didn't let me go see her. I had no claims to her. And when she came out of the coma, she didn't remember who I was or our life together. And so for me, it was like she totally died.
Yeah.
And that's what drove me into my downward spiral. I laid 3 months on my bed, praying to die every single day. I ended up having to sell all of my possessions except for my car and a few clothes. And that's when I became homeless. And at that moment, I drove to Phoenix and lived on the streets until I could get back on my feet. And yeah, so it was kind of a long downward spiral.
Wow. Wow. There's a comment here from Christy Betts. She says, "Oh, wow. Yes. So, wow. What was it like? Okay, so I'm just going to say this. We drive, and I've served my church, and we serve the homeless, and we can see what homelessness looks like. We can assume or think, have an opinion of what homelessness might feel like. What was that? I mean, the streets of Phoenix. What was
Well,
that
I can tell
like?
you this. This is back when you could get a room at the YMCA. I mean, I'm aging myself really now. And I got a room at the YMCA and I spent one night there, and it was so freaking scary that I said I'm safer in my car, and I left and went back to living out of my car for the month until I got back on my feet. It only took me a month, but
Okay.
still. But like I said, I would drive from apartment complex to apartment complex. People were out playing tennis or walking their dog or whatever. I'd get into a conversation with them. I'd spend a night on their couch, clean up, look for work, and do it all over again. So you learn really quick to keep your head on a swivel. You learn really quick to discern good people from bad people, and you learn really quick which neighborhoods to stay out of and which are safe.
Wow. So, my goodness, Daryl, as you were talking to people and having deep conversations and then able to obviously stay at on the couch and then get ready for the next day, how did you struggle at all with uh, substance abuse, alcohol, depression? Like,
No,
how do you?
I think this is where the blessing of my father and the tenacity and the determination. I knew that I was never going to be that guy holding a sign asking for help.
Mm,
And my sales background allowed me to talk to people real easy and all that. So I just knew I was going I had enough stubbornness and determination that I was going to get out of this. And I was already embarrassed that I was homeless because I allowed myself to be that way for 3 months. I just laid there hoping to die, and it instead of going to work then and doing what I needed to then, and I was not going to go back down into that pit. I knew that I was going to make it. And I'll tell you, um, here's the beauty of God, right? God allowed those people to help me. And it's hot here in September in Arizona. And I was in a suit jacket and a tie, and I was standing on a gas station corner up in far north Phoenix. And I looked over and I'm like, okay, there's a there's a restaurant over there, a buffet style restaurant. I know I have no money to afford any of that food, and I have just enough money for a soda. So I can get the soda at this gas station right here behind me, or I can go over there and sit in some air conditioning, drink my soda, and look for work. Now, this was a time when you still had newspapers to go look for work, right? So I took my pocket change, I took my newspaper, I got my soda, and I sat down with my newspaper looking for work. And maybe 15 minutes later, the manager walked over and he says, I notice you're looking for work. Would you ever consider working here? We're looking for a third manager." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about food, but sure." And so he gave me an application. I filled it out, and he said, "When the district manager comes in, we'll give you a call." Now, I'm homeless. I have no phone because there's no cell phones back in the day, and I have no place where they're going to call me. So I'm like, okay. So he takes my application and goes away. 5 minutes later, the district manager unexpectedly walks into that restaurant, interviews me, and gives me a job. So now I have a job. I have a job that's going to give me one meal a day as a benefit and a way to get back on my feet. And I said to him, I said, "I don't know anything about food." He said, "I'm not hiring you to know anything about food. I'm hiring you to manage people. Can you do that?" Yes, that I can do. And that was one of a gazillion examples in my life where God has fully been present, even when I didn't ask him to be. Because I had a love for God, I had a knowledge of God, but I wasn't having a walking relationship for God. I wasn't sitting there going, "Oh God, thank you for these lessons that are going to benefit me 20 years from now." I was saying, like, help get me out of my crap, right? Like,
yes. Hmm.
so, but he's always been good in unexpected ways. And that was just one of many in my life.
Wow. Yes. And that is God all over that. I mean, like you said, you made the decision, and I think that is such a prime example of how God is with us even when we don't know, even when we aren't asking him to be in our lives. That is the beauty of God, and that is how good he is. And the fact that you were trying to make that decision on, do I just get a soda here at the gas station, do I go over to the restaurant there and get a soda so I can be in the air condition and look for a job. And I have chills now just thinking how the Lord had you make that decision because he
Well, the
already
heat
knew.
helped. Like if I wasn't in a suit
Exactly.
coat in the hot heat of Arizona, I probably wouldn't have made a different decision, but the heat certainly helped. And God uses everyday things to make everyday decisions. And we look at the butterfly effect. If I'd have done this, this would have happened. If I did this, another thing happened. And there are thousands of examples in my life where God had a direct hand in it. If I look back, he has woven the tapestry of my life from start to finish.
He has. And boy, am I sorry about the accident of the woman that you fell in love with and you were starting your life or wanted to start your life with in Abilene. I'm so sorry. I could imagine that that would feel like her death. And so, as you mentioned, during those times, you were, sharing or asking God, help me, I need a job, help me, when would you say that your you really came to know who the Lord was? When did your personal relationship, because you have such a great connection with God. And I know that because he uses you and he speaks through you. So when did that, because as a former Catholic, the same, I was afraid and would run and hide. Maybe that's why we ran. I don't know. But would always like run from him because I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect. And the religion, unfortunately, was shaming us and making us feel like, you know, you're punished for every wrongdoing, everything they teach us that is wrong. And when did you finally start? Because I was a lot older before I actually had my personal relationship with the Lord. I was embarrassed actually to talk to him and tell him, okay, this is what's going on with me. He clearly knew. But when did your personal relationship, if you can remember,
I think that Billy Graham moment was my
mm,
moment because that's when I made the decision, what is it that I believe in? I wasn't basing it off of what my parents believed in. I wasn't basing it off of anything else. And then, throughout my entire rest of my childhood from 11 on, I still had Saturday mass and Sunday school. So I still had that religion and that confirmation that God was always there. But from that moment, I pretty much took it inward and to myself.
mm,
I didn't have these moments of deep, meditative, connective prayer. It was
mm,
just like an everyday, I know he's there and I know he's watching over me and I know I'm praying to him and doing these things because I believe in him. And that, but the fact that I chose him instead of him being thrust upon me, I think that's what carried me through all of it, because it was a choice, and I knew even though I didn't always do it right, I knew he was always there,
mm.
and I knew he was always wanting the best for me, even when I didn't want it for myself.
Absolutely. And so you get this job and you become the manager or a manager. And how long were you there? And then where did the Lord move you next?
I was in Dallas. I was in Arizona for less than 3 months when they called me in and said, we're moving you to Dallas and you have to be there on Thursday. I'm like, well, luckily my car's still not packed or unpacked. I can just take up and go. Right. So they moved me to Dallas and I spent another 6 or 7 months working for the restaurant in Dallas. I got really I'm not good in corporate environments
Mm,
because I get irritated with the politics and the BS.
mm,
I just despise the injustice. And so a situation arose where I fell on my own ethical sword and walked away from the job. And, lo and behold, another great job from a company that worked back home in Iowa was available, and so I stayed in Dallas for another 7 years. But I've traveled all over the United States. I've lived a lot of different places. Actually lived in Phoenix 3 different times,
mm.
and I know that I came back here this time to find my wife. So um, it's there's something here that's special, and she was it. So yeah, God's taken me everywhere.
I love that. And so you met your wife. How did you meet your wife?
Met her online, actually, the old-fashioned way.
I've
No, the new way. I was actually in the middle. I was 49 going on 50 in the middle of getting my master's degree, and I had just moved into a new apartment and went on. I didn't have time to date because I was working full time and getting my master's in my off time, and I just went into the app to update my address, and I saw this beautiful woman holding a pair of high heels jumping over a wave in Boston, and I'm like, "Wow, I just need to let her know how beautiful her smile is." So
Mm,
I said, "Hey, just wanted to let you know your picture was awesome," and I said a couple other things that she had written in her profile so she at least knew I had read it. And then I went back to working on my thesis, and, she came back with a thank you message and said, "I don't text, so if you wanna talk, we have to meet." And I'm like, "Well, that's pretty bold, but I kinda like
mm.
that, so
Yeah.
okay." And then, we agreed to do a 30-minute meet and greet. That turned into a 5-hour conversation, and we've been together 11 years ever since.
Wow. Wow. Well, congratulations. How precious
Yeah.
it sounds, and like you said, the old-fashioned way, but the new old-fashioned way. And I absolutely love that every time I chat with you, that you always speak so lovingly and highly of your wife and how supportive she is of
Can I tell you
you.
why, though?
I would love to know why.
Because I know that I wouldn't be as fully healed and I wouldn't be the man I am today without her.
Mm,
In my brokenness, she loved me unconditionally. For the first time ever, I didn't have to pretend to be anyone for someone to care about me.
mhm,
I was able to be authentic and real and broken, and she loved me anyway. And to have, for the first time, a non parent love you unconditionally means the world to me. And I
mm,
know that she has saved my life as much as I've saved her. And I know that God, again, brought us together because I didn't have to go into that app. Her picture didn't have to arise. I'd seen hundreds of other people that, and did nothing. I was too busy to be dating, but her boldness sparked an interest,
mm,
her brashness sparked an interest. And I said yes. And the connection we had was a gift from God that I treat as a special gift every single day.
mm,
And I know the blessing she is. I'm not an easy man to live with. Someone who I'm a very stubborn, opinionated, get off my lawn kind of guy with sound ethics and morals and integrity. And that's not easy to deal with,
mm.
but she does. And she loves me through it anyway. And I've healed through it anyway. So I know the relationship you have with your husband because we talked, and I know you know what I'm talking about. But I
I
treat
do.
her
He's
like a
over there
gift
laughing.
because she is a gift.
How precious. Well, can't wait for the day to meet her because she sounds just absolutely beautiful, lovely, beautiful inside and out. The way that you speak of her, I cannot wait to meet
Here's what I'll
her.
tell you about my wife. and from my story, my wife got chronically ill 3 months after we met, and she almost died from her illness several times. And laying on her deathbed,
Mm,
she I came across some GoFundMe for someone who had been in an accident and were needing to raise money for the person who had been in this severe accident. And I was talking to my wife about it, and she said, we have to give them money. And I said, I'm trying to keep you alive. What are you talking about? Give them money. And she says, I don't care. We need to give to them. And my wife is the type of person that if she doesn't have the shirt off her back to give you, she will give you the skin instead.
mm,
My wife puts everybody first. And her love unconditionally for this world is simply amazing. And so there is a unique specialness about her in my eyes that is just um, her love for God, even on her deathbed, her connection to God, and her wanting to, you know, thy will be done.
mhm,
I've railed against God because of her illness. I've had angry, angry conversations with God because of her illness, because I know in a heartbeat she could be healed. And to see her go through her suffering angers me. And
mhm,
every time I get angry, she's the first one who says, you can't do that,
mhm.
because we are very blessed in many ways. And if this is his will, this is what I'll go through. And it's her connection to God that keeps me connected to God in spite of that anger at times.
Wow.
I am simply so in love with her. It's I wish everyone had that kind of love.
Mm, wow. My goodness. My goodness. So I'm grateful that you shared. Yes, my husband says I'm hard to live with too, Daryl. He's hard to live with. He is. He is hard, tough man. But so you shared, and I'm glad that you did, that you had some pretty hard conversations with God. And for those people that are listening that think, wow, well, I mean, you guys are Christians, and what does God? Why would you have that kind of conversation with God? Why would you take your anger out on Him? And yet He's so loving, and but I think that's the reason why we can have those conversations with Him, because He is so loving. He is so forgiving. He felt the feelings that He gave us. He's cried. He's been angry. He's prayed, and he doesn't ask for you can't be perfect to have a relationship with him. You never will be.
Well,
All the
didn't even Christ say, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" I mean,
sure.
so
Yes.
like even Christ has railed against God. It's if you can't be human and not be feeling these emotions, and some of those emotions are anger, and I have almost committed suicide twice. I've tried it twice. It's the
Mm,
only thing I'm glad I've ever been bad at. I um have stopped myself both times because something, and I know it's a vision that God has given me at that exact moment, of the devastation that would be left behind and
mm,
what that pain would cause. And when you're feeling no hope, when you think the only way out is to not be here, that's a pretty easy decision to make.
mm,
But as soon as hope pops back into your head, you can't make that decision anymore, because there's something to grab onto. And both times, God at that moment gave me a vision of something to hang on to. And the last time it was the devastation I would have left my wife and daughter.
mm.
So you can have emotions and you can deal with your emotions. You can sit with them, just don't camp with them.
Right.
Y- move through them, but don't stay with them for longer periods of time. Because that's when you start becoming hopeless, and that's when it becomes really dire, and you make a decision that you can't pull back from.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
you can sit down and have a loving conversation with God. You can have an honest conversation with God. You can have an angry conversation with God. God loves you through all of who you are. So the fact that people think they only have to have these loving, glorious conversations is bull,
Yes.
because that makes you not human.
Absolutely. See,
I'll get off
people.
my soapbox.
No, I'm glad you're on it because you. I want to move into, and I know there's so much more to your story, but I want to move into your what you have, a warrior spirit. You do. I want you to share with the viewers, listeners that are listening and viewing now, and that will listen and view later, your podcast, what you do there, where we can find you, and why the title.
Well, I'm actually thrilled because tonight is the 150th episode that's airing. And
Congratulations.
yeah, for someone
Awesome.
who never wanted to be a podcaster, that's pretty impressive for me, I
Okay,
think.
elaborate on that.
Well, when God told me that I was to do this podcast, you know, I said no. I'm busy. I got other stuff I'm working on. And God said yes, and I said no, and that battle went on for 6 months, and I turned on a camera and I bought a microphone, and I've been doing it for 3 years now. And it's called a warrior spirit because he told me that I was to give a voice to the voiceless, turn their mess into their message, and make it a platform as a survival for others.
Mm,
And God named it a warrior spirit because that's what we all have within us, you know. And the warrior has to know when to fight and when to put down the sword.
mm,
He has to know when to protect and when to love. And throughout all of our battles, it's that warrior spirit that keeps you standing.
mm,
And so God gave me this platform for others, not for me. And, 3 years later, now you and I are both on the same TV network. We're on Roku and seen in 17 different countries. I went from just a little Zoom thing that I do every Wednesday to now being on all the major podcast platforms. And, he has vision that I can't see, which is, why it works. And I'll keep doing this show as long as he tells me that it's what I'm supposed to do. Because the show isn't about me. It's about my guests, and it's about them sharing their story of what they overcame and their triumph so that others can look at it and go, if they got through that, I can get through that.
we have the same exact reason behind, and that's why it's, that it is so God, because that is the exact same thing. Like, I'm not doing any kind of podcast. Like, that must have been a bad dream, a nightmare. Like, that's not who I am. I'm not a
Well,
radio
imagine getting that
show.
message when you don't own a camera and you don't own a microphone.
You better
Like,
get after
better get after it. Yeah.
it. So, and then for the other part, you are a speaker, and then you also have your own business. Share a little bit about that as well.
Praxis 33 is my consulting business. And I named it Praxis 33 because Praxis means the integration of thought and action. And that's what I want my clients to do. I want their thoughts and their actions to be aligned. And then 33 is an angel number for success and prosperity. So if you align your thoughts and actions, you'll have the success and prosperity. So I named my company Praxis 33. And it's, again, another God thing.
Mm. So I had posted in our description, in the description of this podcast, the link to that you can click on, and you can connect with Daryl in whatever way that you are able to. Thank you so much. Look at there it is.
Yeah,
That
that's the YouTube link. There's a link bio that will take them to all the ways to find me, so they can use that as
yes,
well.
perfect. So let me ask you this. So in all of the times that Gosh, especially, well, let me back up with this. You had shared that twice you thought about taking your life
Not thought about it,
and
tried it.
tried it. Why? Like, I've always wanted to ask somebody, in my mind, it's such an ADD brain, but there was this man, and I'm going to ask you if you remember your thoughts. If you remember your thoughts, there was a man. His story is out on YouTube. I cannot remember the name of the channel, but he went to the Golden Gate Bridge, and he too attempted suicide. He jumped off of it, and when he said, as soon as this very instant that he jumped, he thought, no, 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 I don't want to die. And it was, in his mind, as he's dropping, he's like, it's too late. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He hit the water. He said it was like hitting glass, and lived to tell about it. And he said he had shared that it is a feeling that is indescribable. I mean, a lot of people think, I mean, even in my, I'm not clinically depressed, but even in my most sad seasons of my life, where it's been very dark at times, I've never thought, I think the thought of, if I wasn't here, maybe it would be easier, but it never went past that. And I thought, and then to myself, the Lord was like, no, that's no. So I was like, okay, well, but so he knew immediately that he thought, there's the link. I immediately thought, no, 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 I don't want to die. Do you remember what your thoughts were when you tried to? Do you remember
Yeah,
at all?
the first time I was literally going to drive my car head on into traffic, and I had just about pulled the steering wheel to the left, and I'm like, no, I don't want to devastate other people's lives just because mine sucks. So I
Mm,
pulled it back to the right and stayed in my lane. Um, Fractions of a moment from doing that. The second time was sitting in my car, letting it run, fill up with I don't know, just go to sleep and it'll be fine. And then I'm like, well, shit, my wife's going to find me. I'm going to have to explain this to my daughter. Her life has already been hard enough.
mm,
Losing me isn't really the answer, even though I'm not really. So it was more of my love for her that saved me than my love for myself.
mm. Wow. Well, I thank God that the love that your family has for you saved you, because here we are, here to share how good God is and how important it is to take the steps to heal, to seek counseling, whatever it is that you feel led to do, to heal, to become self-aware, to heal, and to know that there are people out there that will love you just as unconditionally as any good parent does, or the Lord. He loves us unconditionally. He loves us and
Well,
forgives us.
here's what I've learned, Tish, to do now, and my wife has been one to help me with this. Even when I think things are crappy, have learned to stop, look, and use all the rest of my senses to listen, see, feel, touch 5 things that I'm grateful for.
Mm,
And your brain cannot hold 2 thoughts at once. It cannot hold the sadness and the gratitude at the same time. And once you start, 4 and 5 might be tough, but once you start finding them and naming them, your brain forgets how bad you feel to want to not be there, because it can't hold both thoughts and one replaces the other. So when I get those moments of depression or sadness or whatever, I do that. I stop. Even if I have to go outside or whatever, I find 5 things that my senses are grateful for at that very moment. And, I still have to work through the sadness or the woe is me moments, but I don't stay there anymore.
I'm glad that you shared that because there are very few men that are willing to share. I have interviewed a few, I maybe a few, you maybe make the few that have shared I know for sure there was a man, yeah, two actually, yeah, two other men that shared their bouts with depression and shared that they what they did to get through it. And I think more men need to know that it's okay to reach out. It's a must, really, to reach out, to connect, to find someone to that you trust, that you can talk to, that it's okay to be broken. We all are. It is okay to cry. It is okay to get help and to heal. You are a man. You are a man with human feelings, feelings
But
that
see, the and this is where my wife has helped me because she allowed me to be vulnerable. And she
mm,
actually not begged, but she prodded and pleaded, just be vulnerable, just be open. And society doesn't allow men that. The only emotion that society accepts from a man is anger. And then when they
mm,
are angry, they don't want any of that. They understand the anger and they say, "Oh, that's a man thing." But if a man is open and vulnerable and sheds a tear and all that, society doesn't deal with that very well. They
mm,
say they're not manly, they're a wimp, they're whatever. So until society starts accepting the fact that men have emotions too, anger is going to be the only one that they readily show. And that's not right. We should be allowed to be in our vulnerability and our sadness and our moments that are not just anger.
mm.
And society should be, hey, you're human too, right? But until that
Absolutely.
changes, it's going to be hard pressed to find guys who will open up as easily.
Most definitely. I wonder who the idiot was that started that crap. Who said,
Right.
it's not manly to cry. I mean, because you hear it all the time. You hear it all the time. Men will say, boys don't cry. It starts at such a young age, and I'd like to find that guy.
Hmm.
Anyways, so is there anything, Daryl, at all, before we wrap up, is there anything at all that I did not ask you that you want to share with people that are listening? Anything at all that I have not asked you that you thought, I want to share that. I want to speak on that.
Well, we've explored a lot, and my message to people is that there's hope, even if you can't find it in the very moment that you're looking. It's there. There's something to be grateful for. There's something. And look, our hardships are the foundation that our future is built on. We build through those, but we don't see it at the moment. We don't say, hey, these are the bricks that I'm going to stand on later, right? But if you are having those moments, find someone to talk to. We're not alone in this world, even though we sometimes feel it. And social media has made us less social, so everyone's more isolated. But that's not the case. We're interconnected, and everybody. Look, I've done 154 interviews. 150 have come out. What I know through all of that is we all have crap. We all have trauma. We all have stuff we're dealing with. We're all unique, but the same. Find somebody to connect with to help you walk this life that you're living. Don't do it alone.
Absolutely. And there have been many times that if I'm in we're in our podcast meetings with Elena, or we have a group that we are all connected to, thank God, that there have been times that I've shared, man, I am struggling. I'm struggling. And thank God for this community Prosperity TV network, that we have each other to say, this is what I'm going through. Or even if it's about our channel, man, my channel, this, or I don't think I'm going to do this anymore, or whatever it is. And I think that you hit the nail on the head for sure that, boy, we cannot do this alone, and you don't have to. And you're not alone. I mean, we're not walking through this alone, but definitely need to find someone that you can talk to and share what you're going through, and know that there's someone who maybe is a prayer warrior and will be praying for you, because I know that there is power in prayer. I've been through it most recently, and Daryl's part of that team that prays, and I count on those prayers. And boy, I it's almost like you are you have the flu and you're sick and you're feeling down, and then but you're reaching out and you're letting people know, I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad week, this month is terrible. And then they continue to pray for you, and they're praying, and then the Holy Spirit is telling you, giving you suggestions as what you need to do next wherever you are struggling. And then I started, okay, I can do that, I can take that step, and I take the step, and it's hard steps, not easy. And then today I feel like, whew, the flu is gone. I feel so good today. And I know that a lot of that has to do with, obviously, number one, my faith and hope and trust that comes from the Lord and my relationship with Him. But the other is that I do have a community that I can reach out to. I have a husband who is just behind me all the time, beside me, sometimes in front of me, and I'm following him. I follow him a lot. And that he is my number one fan, and I just love him so much. Just as you love your wife, there is just this, yes, the love that is unconditional. And is he a tough cookie to live with? Yeah, he is. Am I? Yes, I am. But together, we make such a great team. And so I love that, Daryl, that yes, please tell somebody, reach out to someone and tell them.
Can I add this as well, Tish?
Yes, please.
If you want your life to be better, stop making it about you.
Mm.
Your life is better served serving others. And we are here to be in service to God and to others. And your life will get infinitely better when you stop making it about you. I've seen it over and over and over again.
That's so true. And I have to tell you that my stubbornness and um, not thinking that I'm right, but my stubbornness. Okay. So because there's a difference, but sometimes they intertwine, but I do know that what you just said, once I decided to not make it about me, the Lord opened my eyes to conversations that I was adamant about not having. I'm like, I'm not, because of my stubbornness, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. And thank God that He is relentless, and He will continue until He opens your eyes to, yes, you are. This is what you need to do. This is not about you. This world is not about you. This life is not about you. I need you to have this conversation and keep your mouth shut. And I thought, okay. And I did. And that's why I feel 1,000% better, because that stubbornness, I still have it, but I listened to the Lord and did what He told me, which I should have done a long time ago, but stubbornness. And then had the conversation, and now I feel like, woo, I feel good. And yes, you are so right. You are so right, Daryl. This world is not about us and at all. And it is about us serving God and serving others and loving others and meeting them where they're at, as I hope others would meet me as well. So, what is something that you're thankful for, with this being the month of Thanksgiving? What are something or some things that you're thankful for? I'm sure you've shared one for sure already, or two or three.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is obviously top of that list right now, but I'm actually thankful that I have something to look forward to and to live a future in the joy that I was created to live in. You know, being a Christian or follower of God doesn't make the problems go away. And your goal shouldn't be to live a problem-free life. Your goal should be to be strong enough to handle bigger problems.
Mm.
And so I'm thankful that I truly feel 2 years old because I'm 60, but I've only been alive for 2 years.
Mm.
And I look forward to being able to write the next chapter in my life the way I want to, authentically and fully, wholly me, and not a version of me that was expected of me by
Mm.
my past.
Mm.
So I'm grateful that I get an opportunity to live my life for a change.
Man, that's beautiful. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here for just a sec. Do you do you get angry, or do you feel like, and I know we need to go, but do you get angry, or do you ever feel like, man, I'm 60 years old and I've only been living for 2 years? Do you feel like, man, I wish I would have, I mean, wish I would have known this sooner, earlier? Do
Well,
you?
I obviously wish I would have done it sooner, but had I done it sooner, I wouldn't be the man I am today, prepared for what I'm prepared for. So I had to go through those struggles in order to become who I'm supposed to be. It is truly the butterfly effect. If we change any part of our past, we change our entire future.
Mm.
And I I can't be angry. I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. And I've learned the lessons that help me be better where I am now. So wondering, sure. Angry, no, I can't be angry
Why? How are you so positive? I'm
because I've
serious.
lived a lot of crap.
Mm.
you you learn that when why am I so positive? Because I've
Yes.
watched my wife almost die twice.
Mm.
And I know what a precious gift every breath we take is.
Mm.
That's why I'm positive.
Man, cannot wait to meet your wife. Okay, Daryl, before I ask you my final question that I ask everybody, I want to say thank you so much for sharing and your transparency, your candidness, your honesty, and boy, I know a lot more about you than I knew prior. And I believe that when people share their testimonies, not only first and foremost do they show how good or share how good God is, but they also, I believe, share how good of a man that you are. I mean, you are Daryl, and there's something about you that I guess really does sort of echo what you are. Christy Betts went over and subscribed to Daryl's channel. Yes, please go subscribe to Daryl's channel. Thank you, Christy. But it echoes what you said. You wouldn't be the man you are today had you not gone through what you have gone through. And if that's the case, and those of us that will not, that will go through the moments but not stay camped there, like you said, we are on to becoming bigger, better people than we ever thought we were, whether we are reborn and are our new selves 10 years ago or 2 days ago or 2 years ago. How lucky are we? How lucky are we to look forward to that? And what a joy you are to me, Daryl, and I know to many others who are friends with you, who watch your podcast, who are interviewed by you, or who get the pleasure and the blessing of interviewing you. So let me ask you this question, Daryl. After everything that you have been through, everything, and I want you to take it into account, being beaten as a child, homeless, my goodness, losing some women, some loves in your life that were in your path, um, almost taking your own life, and thank God not successful. and to rediscovering yourself just 2 years ago, being 2 years old. Who would you say that you are today? Who are you, Daryl? Who is Daryl Snow today? Who are you?
I am someone who is willing to walk through hell to get to the other side.
Mm,
And my father instilled honor, integrity in my life as key foundations. And if I live a life authentically me with the honor, my word is my bond, with the integrity that I know right from wrong, and I will stand on my sword and die on it for the righteousness that it's supposed to be. If I can be known as someone who lived with honor and integrity, then everything I've gone through means something, because going through what you and I have gone through, it can go several ways. It can go down a destructive, alcoholic, drug induced path, or it can be someone who wants to reach back and help others get through their own hell.
mm.
And I want to be the guy who reaches behind me and helps as many come out of that as they can.
Well, I believe that you are, my friend. You are doing that, and through your podcast, through the work that you do outside of your podcast, through your speaking events. Oh my goodness, you are. Through friendships and just little chats and messages, you are. And I see now why your podcast and why the Lord had you name your podcast Warrior Spirit. While it's not about us, you are a warrior, Daryl. You are. And so beautiful to be able to call you my friend. And I'm just honored and blessed. And boy, another reason to be thankful this month is to have met and become friends with you. And I cannot wait to meet your wife. I cannot wait for you to meet my husband. And thank you so much. Just like others in the chat have said, thank you so much for sharing your story, Daryl. It's pure greatness. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing. And boy, I can't wait to have you on again for another time, because it's always a joy to get to chat with you.
Well, I appreciate you and I appreciate this platform. I don't do it very often. It's really, like you said, strange to be interviewed. So I just appreciate the opportunity, and I'm blessed to have, met people like you to be able to call friend as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Daryl, we're going to let you go. I appreciate you coming on, and tell your lovely wife thank you for letting us steal you away for a little over an hour. I hope you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I appreciate you. Thank you for your comments and for sharing and for subscribing. I appreciate that as well. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I hope you guys have a good night. Thank you, Christy Betts. Have a good night. And if I don't see you before Thanksgiving, I hope and pray that you have a blessed Thanksgiving with your family and your friends. And just know that you are loved. The Lord loves you. And I will see you next time. You'll have a good night. Bye bye.